Hello, and welcome to another episode of Philosophy. I'm your host, Justin Land, and today I have with me Sirgun Kaur. She is a sacred songstress and spiritual coach. She has 7 albums and makes beautiful music. And today I'm happy to have her on my show. Hello, Sirgun.
Hi, thanks for
How you
having
doing?
me.
No worries, no worries. How are you doing?
What was the question? I didn't quite get that.
This is the most important question. How are you doing?
Oh, how am I doing?
Yes.
Wonderfully.
Wonderfully, yes. You're no, we know this happens with all the previous episodes. It's always the Joshua teachings connection, so that's how I know you. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, I see that you have a very colorful background, and yeah, you're actually part of the boot camp teaching system now, and you have really incorporated the teachings, I think, into your life. And I'm just very curious, of course, to hear about this aspect of, yeah, how did you come to these teachings? And yeah, maybe we could start there.
Yeah, I suppose the short answer is that I met Gary in an online course. Um, but for about 2 years prior to that, I had been listening to Abraham, like almost throughout the entire day, every day. Because it was at a time where people were posting the full like retreats and cruises and stuff on YouTube. And I've noticed that they've taken them off since. So I'm like, wow, that was like the perfect timing for me. Um, so I got kind of into that vibration. I felt like I needed to listen to it that much because it was really changing the way that I approached my life. It was like changing the way that I acted and reacted and saw myself. And um, listening to it that much was helpful because I needed the reminder. Like it almost became my self-talk, like just to sort of drown out my own self-talk maybe. Um, and before that I'd been a yogi and all that. So it wasn't like I was new to a lot of the ideas, but I was new to kind of the ease in the approach. Because when I was doing, strictly yoga, it was like, you wake up by a certain time and you take a cold shower and you wrap your head. And, there was all these like constraints around,
Mhm.
or at least that's how it felt to me, around how I should present myself and act and behave and things. And it started to, it dawned on me, um, ironically, actually, because the yoga that I do is based on a line of Sikhism. And Sikhism is based in the idea that um, all of the external, religious or spiritual stuff is just baloney. I mean, that's the whole scriptures is
I
saying,
don't know
don't
that.
don't look spiritual, be it. Like, remember who you are.
Mm.
And but as humans, we want to create these um outward appearances, and we want to think that by doing certain things that we are a certain identity or whatever. So I got a little wrapped up in that. And so listening to Abraham was super refreshing. It made me question a lot of what I was doing, and also understand it on a deeper level. I think it had kind of like a dual thing. And so when I met Gary, I didn't realize that anyone else was doing, what Esther was doing, and I was totally fascinated. I started listening to his podcast because I contacted him, and I was like, I can't remember why I initially contacted him. Oh, I initially contacted him because I knew about his podcast. And so I remembered at the end of it, it said, if you have a question for Joshua, write to whatever. And since I knew, where he was on Facebook, I just Facebook messaged him and I said I had this question. And it was this question that I had really, 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 really wanted to ask Abraham at a December workshop that I had gone to in Phoenix. That's where I was at the time. And and it was too high level. Like it was not something that the rest of the people in the space we're going to be interested in. And I remember this moment where Abraham looked at me in the first, I can't remember, segment, is that what they call it? Stared at me for, a half of a second or whatever, but it impacted me. And I had my hand up and they looked at me like, hell no,
Yes, that's
not doing
nice.
that. But I took it really, I was really offended,
By spiritual guidance, you're offended by non-physical,
yeah,
all
no,
knowing.
my question
How
isn't good.
how dare they? Yeah. What was your question?
So it had to do with what vibration means. What do we
Mhm.
mean by a higher a frequency or vibration? Because as a musician, I was like, does this mean it's a higher note? Is it louder? Is it, what does this mean? And I really loved Joshua's answer that it had to do with, basically the depth of your awareness, like your ability to perceive more.
Yes.
So that was really exciting for me. And I honestly could not believe, because when you go from thinking that you have to attend a seminar, be in a lottery of like 2,000 people to
Hmm.
get a question answered, to being able to do it over Facebook, and they send you, he sent me a PDF for free.
Yes.
Um, it was extremely exciting. So
I find that to be I think that's the way that a lot of people enter into this. Uh, I mean, I started, and I didn't just start with Abraham. I actually started with Bashar. There was different channels, and I still looked to other channels. But Joshua uh, is at the moment the one that I vibrate the most with, and I like you. I listen to it often the day on repeat, all the episodes, and I can listen over and over and get new things out of it. And I'm very thankful to to Abraham and Bashar as well. I had when I was there was a phase like I guess 3 years ago when I was really into the Bashar. He's the fifth
yeah,
fifth
familiar.
dimensional. Wait 1 second. Fifth dimensional being from Essassani that is we can't see his planet because it's obviously a different dimension, but it would be where we, I guess, near direction of Sirius. If we were vibrating at that frequency, we could see it, but the dimensions are just vibrational differences. And I found his teachings very deep, and I got a lot of free stuff online. So, it's like in the beginning, you're just trying to get the wherever you can get it, and it was like actually I think illegal because it was like a site that it's like every video. This guy, he's been doing it for like since the '70s, so it's like a large library of these workshops and conferences, and they have wonderful names like how to communicate with extraterrestrials, what does it mean to be an alchemist, and it was yeah, and then they took down that site, so I was forced to look elsewhere a little bit, and yeah, I came to Gary, and he was the first one that I really reached out to. So I that was it's a good point. I think his accessibility, uh, obviously in his podcast, that format where he's just taking questions from normal people, and anything goes. There's no real formality to it. Just down to earth. He doesn't talk about extraterrestrials much, which I like, but it's like that's totally awesome. I understand every time you talk that with Joshua, he goes down to the very basic, which is everything you believe creates reality. So give anything a positive meaning, and then it's fine. So yeah, if extraterrestrials are your thing, and it helps you, but don't like have any fear around that. Some people are quite afraid, like they want to be beamed up from Earth and saved. And it's like no, that's not the case. It doesn't have to be. And actually, yoga was also important to me a little bit, and I'm going to some Kundalini courses. I'm not in the community, so what you did was
Oh,
very, very different.
it's big in Germany.
Was that?
It's
Is
really
it
big
big?
in Germany. It's like the
Yeah.
main food in Germany. Yeah.
The main type of yoga, you mean, or?
Hmm.
Could be. There's a lot of different yoga offered, and this one that I go to, he uses gongs. And that's why I love it so much. Is because and he has a very high understanding of, universal laws that I also believe in, with a little bit of a different twist, the Kundalini twist. But I love the gongs at the end because it's just a whole wall of them. And yoga's nice, but I really just like to lay down and just like vibrate to these beautiful, gongs. So yeah, that it sounds to me like the that was important for your development, being part of that community, which I'm sure you're still part of. And it was important because also as you grew, you rubbed against even like any doctrines or communities framework. There's rules because if you want to be part of a group, the
Mm-hmm.
group often has some sort of rules, cold showers, whatever. You begin to like question, well, I don't feel like taking. Does that mean that I'm not a good Kundalini
Right.
practitioner? Or I'm guessing, I'm putting words in your mouth, but let me hear what you have to say.
Yeah. I actually love taking cold showers, so I do that. But yeah, it was more like the things that I felt sort of kept me apart from other groups of people, such as, strict vegetarian diet, not consuming alcohol, um, keeping all the hair on my body, like not shaving or cutting my hair or doing anything like that. And nothing, there's nothing wrong with it. And I don't feel particularly great when I overconsume alcohol or meat or stuff like that. So, I mean, I understand that there's like a logic to it, but just the idea that you cannot do
Mm.
something, that you've agreed that you will not ever.
Who'd you agree with? I mean, where's this? Is this like a contract? What exactly does, I mean, you sign
It's
contract?
twofold.
Hmm?
It's twofold. It's part of the Kundalini yoga teacher training. So you
Okay.
agree to this, at least in terms of how you're presenting yourself as a teacher.
Hmm.
Um, and then because I became involved in the Sikh aspect of it, I actually took vows, and vowed, after I got married. Actually, we both did, to keep these, tenets. And listening
But
to both. Go ahead.
but you're saying Sikhism, from your definition, it sounded like very open idea. And now you're telling me it involves vows. That's not really, I mean, I mean, how open is that then?
Right. Well, Sikhism evolved. So the first teacher that would be considered like the first guru in the lineage of, there were 10. It was very general sort of, teachings about, and he would just travel and he would sing like poetry to God, to people, to just get them in a high vibrational state. That's my interpretation. And he declared this, unthinkable thing, that all is one, in
Mhm.
India. And then he would dress half Muslim and half Hindu to be like super controversial because
Nice.
there was a lot of tension between those two groups at the time. And so his message was basically like, there is no, there's no religion, there's just God.
Mhm.
There's, or there is religion, but it doesn't make a God. There is the one thing. And you guys are creating a lot of fluff around this idea. So it's very simple. And then with the second and the third, by the time it got to the 10th, that's when, there was like uh, this vow thing created. Um,
The 10th what? What is it? The 10th prophet
10th,
or the 10th teacher?
they're called gurus,
Gurus, okay.
teachers. Yeah. Um, and that's when he developed this, this class of person that would, bow to, all the things that I said, as well as like, defend, um, defend people against injustice. So it was sort of like an army, like a
Mhm.
peacekeeping army that he was developing. And it's hard to say whether that was meant to be just time specific or whether he meant for this to continue for hundreds of years. Um, and there's people who have acknowledged like an 11th and a 12th and a 13th and a 14th guru, and there's people that, you know, so there's different sects of what's going on. But the way that it was adopted in the West was very much centered on the 10th teachers' teachings, and this, you know, this way of dressing and this way of eating and this way of,
so what you're kind of saying is, I think it's similar to all religions, the first, the Buddha, the Jesus, the Muhammad. I mean, can you imagine them as just like a down to earth kind of guy who really understood that everything is one, and we're all one body. It's all about love, and then how that is somehow, for some people to understand and incorporate that into their life, they need some sort of structure. They can't hold on to something that's so vague, that everything's love. I want to see how I can work and get it, prove myself, and then we put on these little rules, and they're ridiculous because it's like the rules are not the message. The rules are, but I'm guessing some people come to the message through rules. I mean, I know I have too. I have a bit of religious background, so I saw, there is spirituality in there, and now I'm kind of dealing with, how do you, when you have so much freedom of thought now, like you do and I do, and you start working in these new areas for us and others as well. We're coming, defining things totally new for ourselves. I can't go to a Bible and say this is the way, and then you go to Joshua's teaching, there's nothing there that says you have to do this, or it's just like showing us options of, from a higher perspective, what it looks like from up there, which is not up there, but just from a broader seeing what we're doing really is what's really happening, and when you're in the labyrinth, you don't see that. You need that guidance from something that's not in that labyrinth of thought, which we got there through things like religion, funny enough. So it's like a big loop. And I'm actually also curious so you're a singer, and you were singing before you became part of the Kundalini community?
Yeah, I was a singer-songwriter before I got into yoga, and I had a journey with that, and sort of transitioning from like heartbreak songs to to mantra music, and so that was really interesting. I'm finding now that I've been in the vibration of mantra that I'm like starting to want to write more conscious English language stuff, because it's my native tongue, and I enjoy writing songs, things.
Nice. I went to my first mantra singing three days ago. I mean, at the Kundalini yoga thing, he repeats some mantras, but this is really when it was like a room packed full of people, and you had some sort of Indian accordion piano thing.
Harmonium.
Yeah, and some interesting flutes, and one of those, what's the name of that Indian guitar? One of the Indian guitars. But it was really an amazing experience, the repetition and coming to vibration. And obviously your music, there's, when you're doing that, some of the mantras, it hits you also because of the simplicity, I guess, because even if you don't, I guess when you're speaking in another tongue, that shows the words sometimes are not as, it's more the vibration of them than it is what we interpret like the word to mean. It's literally, it's used as a device. But you know more about this. I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, I'm actually curious where you are. Are you in northern Germany?
No. Okay, I'm in Leipzig. Where did that come up? What do you?
Well, because I was just there this last summer, and so I met a bunch of teachers and musicians and stuff. So I was like, I wonder if you're.
With all the coincidences that are not coincidences, most definitely. Yeah, he's in Leipzig. I forgot his name. I didn't mention your name to him. I guess this interview.
Is he an older man? I don't remember. Is he an older man?
No. He's he's middle-aged. He wears he wears primarily the, I think, the blue and orange. I don't know, like, does that mean like the different colors that people in the Kundalini or Sikh, they
No,
mean
but
different?
the royal blue and the orange are more like the warrior. Um,
I think he sees himself as a warrior because
yeah,
there's a fighting class before the Kundalini class
yeah,
with
yeah. Oh,
swords
that,
and stuff.
yeah,
I haven't gone to that one yet.
yeah.
Looks
Mention
fun.
mine because I may know them. But anyway, your question about mantra. Um, yeah. So I actually I was performing with this woman, and she was always like, the way that you explain the mantras is so nice, like you should talk about them more. But when I chant them, I so much prefer to sort of feel into what they mean rather than like um I don't know, be like really studied about what they mean. So sometimes, like, I did a mantra the other day, and I realized I didn't even know what the meaning was. But like, because this it's different than the English language was come up with, right? Like, these sounds came from people who were in deep meditation. So
Mm.
they would create these sounds based on, where they resonated in the body and the brain, and they would affect different areas, and they felt good, in different ways.
Yes.
So if you get into it and chant it, then you can really discover for yourself what it does. Um, it's nice though for people who are starting, just so that they don't like, they're not like, what are we chanting? Like, like, what are we saying here? What am I agreeing to? Um, so I mean, for that, I understand, if people have a little bit of discomfort around like the fact that it's a different language, it's nice to explain it a little. But yeah.
That's there's it's a bit similar, but I mean, one can talk also about the feeling aspect of creation of music. So inspiration comes, and then the question is, um, yeah, some people have used drugs to become very creative with their music, LSD, even tobacco,
Yeah, yeah.
marijuana. The whole rap scene, that came from marijuana mostly. They talk about all the time, and they're feeling it. So what I'm getting from the vibration of these beats and these feelings is it's very corporal, and powerful. So it's, I mean, all music, I'm guessing, is like that, but some of it is, that's more, I guess, more has a vocal element, which I think rap does.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't know, what is your feelings about, I don't know if I can make that into a question or not.
Like, stop the use of drugs, or
No, I just you were talking about how you can feel it in your body. So I'm just, yeah, through meditation, deep meditation. My point being that these guys on the streets, they were not going to Kundalini classes, but
mm,
they were still getting into a meditative state. Okay, so we
yeah,
have to be honest about this. There are
yeah,
multiple ways meditation just
for
is
sure.
one way, definitely, and then some people are using this other way, but they're getting the feeling first and trying to express it in, some sort of the rhythm and put it to words. But it always, I think it has to be opening up the music that one's always receiving.
Hmm.
Right? What is your impression about this?
um I'm still not totally sure I understand the question.
No, okay, well, it's about inspiration, like where inspiration comes from a musician. So,
Oh, yeah,
does it
yeah.
begin, if it becomes one, does it begin with the feeling? Does it begin with that aspect, or you think it's, you know, um, like you said, part of the body. So you get a vibration in part of your body, and that's expressed in a certain guttural tone that comes up. That tone has no maybe definition. It has no, but it maybe rhymes with a certain word like girl. So there's the
Uh-huh.
first word of the song. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter it's a girl. The mattering is that I had that feeling in that part of my body that brought up that kind of, that's the closest expression of
Yeah,
that
that's
inexpressible feeling. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, it's important to note that, not all music is created from a state of meditation and relaxation. So, I think the main thing is that musicians are not are non-resistant to music coming in.
Right.
And then whatever sort of, whatever their vibe is, then that's the thoughts they're going to attract, and that's the type of song they're going to end up writing, right? But I mean, I was just as prolific when I was depressed at writing music as I am now, when I'm
But can you listen to that? But honestly, I mean, do you feel like, I mean, when you listen to depressed music, does that make you depressed that you wrote, or do you still feel drawn to it?
well, it's funny actually. I was listening to it the other day because I was I'm in a new relationship. I don't know if you've met Juan.
I've seen him online. I mean, and
Yeah.
I've seen him with Joshua. He seems like a very nice guy. Yeah,
So we
we're Facebook friends, so I see a lot of
yeah.
food coming from him.
Yeah, I make a lot of food. Um, so we were driving back from going to the snow one day, and I was inspired to have him listen to one of the songs that I recorded as Porter before I was Sirgun, because that was my birth name. And I was listening to it, and I didn't feel depressed listening to it. I was actually like, wow, I was really good. I didn't like myself very much or think that at the time, but this was really pretty. Um, so yeah, no, I don't think that us. I think you are attracted to songs for different reasons. Somebody might like listening to Kurt Cobain because they're super depressed, and somebody might just really appreciate the craft of it, and be in a really great mental state or feeling state.
Hmm.
It's
I just had to throw my kids was crawling around. I had to throw a chocolate thing over them too. Because she was gonna walk right through the podcast. I'm like, this is not professional. So, anyways, uh,
Mine are at school for the first time ever. This was the
okay.
first day. I've been homeschooling for
Oh,
7.
wow.
Yeah.
You've been homeschooling. Are they 7 years old or?
Well, my son, yeah, my older one's going to turn 7 in
Hmm?
February. So they both entered, and then my 3-year-old, who's going to turn 4 in a couple months, he just started preschool today.
Wow. So this isn't a big event. I mean, I guess is this where the homeschool is part of the Kundalini ideas, or?
Mm-mm. No, it was my personal project. Yeah, I got really into the whole unschooling concept, and like free learning, democratic learning, and all that. Um, but it turns out I'm not a super passionate homeschooling mom. So
Yeah, you're not the one that's gonna like do math at 12 to 2 o'clock. I'm guessing, right?
no, well, the idea is more free form, but you have to really be willing to like be attentive to your children all day. And because I have so many passion projects that I love to do, we just
Mhm.
ended up kind of doing our own thing all day. And it didn't, it started to not feel good. So,
No, this is a very interesting because yeah, have you seen the episode I had with Wendy? I don't know, or heard it. Yeah, we were talking a lot about children.
mm,
Yeah, it's very with these teachings as well, like seeing children as our teachers, also seeing them as vibrating higher than us. So there is a bit of a hierarchy, but it's not a better than. It's more like they are more in tune to their natural self. They know what they like and what they
mm-hmm.
don't like. We're confused by what we like, but we know by our feelings, but we're lying to ourselves. Like, I mean, it's just like pretending that we like math because we have to. It's like,
Right.
oh, a normal person, Spark. That's you have to know a lot of math, but this is not true. It's all about
Right.
from the understanding is that kids are coming in equipped with the compass,
Yeah.
and our point is to just help them on that journey. But um, at the same time, I think a structure of some sort. They're coming knowing they're going to have to deal with that as well. So having to taste the schooling system to kind of like maybe later throw it away, to take a ladder of some sort and just throw it away later. I'm not saying I throw away mine, but it's like my schooling, it's like, I'm sure the same with you, is like, what the hell was I doing the whole time? I mean, I didn't do a lot of homework. I didn't, I was socially awkward, and I realized it was some sort of game of sociability. Like, I saw the ones that were having a good time, but they were not. I wanted to be seen as good, so it's like that doesn't work in the high school, and yeah, and what I'm seeing with my kids now is that the structures change with the schooling, at least here in Germany, where the kids are running around the schools in the hallways, throwing. They're not fighting, but they're getting really rough, and they're throwing stuff around, and it's like chaos, and nobody intervenes. And
Oh,
it's like,
wow.
if the system, and this is a public school, this is not a private school, this is a normal public
Mhm.
school. Granted, it's a newly built one, but just the building's new, like an open plan, but it still has the same curriculum in the same times. It's just they have rooms that are just dedicated to gymnastics, music. There's like it's actually called a disco. They have a freaking disco where they, first graders, fourth grade, they just go in there and just like blast, pop music and disco music, just jump
Really?
around, and they're because they're coming with so much energy that they can't sit down like we did. I'm just thinking, like, so I came from energy where somehow I was able to sit in my freaking chair through an hour of some health class or whatever, or Spanish, that I obviously didn't want to necessarily listen. I wasn't, but they wouldn't even sit there. I'm guessing you can't make them sit for an hour for something they don't want. They just get up and leave. Oh, this is what's happening. These kids are just like they don't. You may say they don't respect authority, but the system has, because it's such an unmasked level. We're not. I don't know what's like in the States at the moment, but heard about Finland and all these other countries that are just like throwing away the whole system, where they're like, whatever, 4 hour days, 3 hour days, no standard curriculum, whatever the kid wants to do is fine, even video games or whatever. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so we're dealing with this kind of new like paradigm shift, and but I feel like the system's already adjusted. Funny enough, I don't know. It depends on where you're at, but I don't know what your experiences are. Maybe I can understand why maybe you didn't want to put them in the school system, but it seems like the kids already changed the system without the government
Yeah,
changing it
I
necessarily.
was really impressed by the public school that I put my older son in. Like they don't do homework, they have like they have two teachers in with so they've combined both the kindergartens because I put my 6-year-old in kindergarten because he'd never gone to school before. Um, and it's just seemed it seemed really progressive. And I mean, there is, there's the rules and the things that he won't be used to. Um, but he was sitting for most of the day by choice, which I found really fascinating. Like
Mm.
he was like gaming, like, or watching stuff, or like watching people game for large portions of the day. And
On
he'd only,
YouTube?
sorry.
On YouTube, or what do you mean
Yeah,
watching people
YouTube.
game?
Yeah.
This is what my kids are doing.
Yeah.
They're watching other people play Minecraft,
Yeah.
and
Mario. He like,
Minecraft, from my generation, I'm a gamer too. I'm sorry to go on this, but this is like one of my passions was gaming,
uh,
and I looked at Minecraft, which looks like the most primitive type of. I mean, I know it's open world, but it's like it's in this block form. The graphics don't look pretty, but the creative aspects of it seem to be very, and they're role playing stuff, and they're learning about, just the idea of playing in the world. Uh, and so I have like same issue as like, are you guys watching too much of people playing games? And
yeah.
I'm just staying back for a moment and saying, we'll see where this leads, because I know for myself, having played a lot, that when you satisfy an inspiration, you get to
Mhm.
the next one. So like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it won't be a forever thing. So I'm just telling you, you don't have to worry about
Yeah.
being
No,
addiction.
I was not so we were unschooling. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but it's like, unlimited, whatever, media. They get to eat when they want and go to sleep when they want, and, within reason, because they want me to help them go to bed. So it's like if I need to go to bed, then they do. Um, but I let it like to the extremes, right? It was like,
Mhm.
you
What are
make
the
up
extremes?
like, like, I don't know, that felt really extreme for me. Like you sort of eat whatever you want, do whatever you want.
Well,
But because we're going through a divorce right now,
mm,
I was noticing that he wasn't doing the gaming and the watching so much because he was inspired to anymore. I could tell he was doing it because he didn't want to feel.
mm,
And I wanted to help him get past that fear. And so, let's say I was inspired to help him get past that fear because I felt like it was my own fear of putting, especially my older son, in school because of the social thing, which
mm.
really doesn't make any sense because I never had like well, actually that's not true. I guess in elementary school there was stuff too, but it was mostly high school that was traumatic
That was
for
high
me.
school, yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
Junior high and high school was, moving to a different state also was
Mhm.
a big change, but
Yeah. And so we
it gets
moved.
brutal. It gets brutal then. Yeah, elementary school was so much,
Hmm.
it was still, it felt good. I got a good vibe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so and we just moved here too, so he doesn't know any other kids, and he wasn't, he doesn't like group activity. He's very resistant to like group activities. He wouldn't want me to sign him up for like soccer or swimming or stuff like that. So it just seemed like the best idea. And then the school is a 3-minute walk from our house, so I walked him there this morning, and it's gorgeous because things are very well maintained here. The teachers love what they're doing because they're hopefully getting paid a living wage, and it just seems like everybody just really loves being there, which I just felt so good about. So
And can you maybe mention to our viewers and listeners, I remember on the call with Joshua, it was I think 1 or 2 weeks ago, how you found this school, right? Is this the one we're
oh,
talking about?
no, this is the elementary school, and that one, it was the first one I looked at. And Juan just mentioned, we have an elementary school just like right here. So I went and looked at it and I was like, wow, this is impressive. No, so the other one, I was looking for preschools were harder because,
Preschool.
they're like much more limited enrollment, um and it's harder to get, for working. There's a lot of working people around here. I mean, dual income homes. So like there's a lot of need for preschools. And I was calling around, and it's the middle of the school year, so most of the places are full, and they have wait lists for September. So I looked up like preschools near me. I saw a daycare person, and I called her up, and she was like, and her name just like lit up for me. Um, I called her up, and she was like, you have a boy. He's 5. Most of the kids I have are like 2 and 3. He's not. No, he's 5. He's 3. Most of the kids I have are like newborn to 2. Um, you want someplace where he can like be rough and tumble and be with kids his own age and whatever. And there's this amazing preschool that's in a church, but it's not religious and yada yada, really affordable, whatever. So I was like, this sounds great. So I called them, and they do happen to have a spot for 2 days a week. So I set up the tour, and the way it goes is like you call them on one day, and then they have a tour date on the next day, or on like 3 days from now. So it's a gamble that the spot will still be available, right? And we show up, and he I actually brought him with me, and the lady was like, we're so sorry, but we filled the spot that I told you about like right after I hung up the phone with you. And I was like, at first I was like, are you kidding me? God, if I had known, I would have just signed up then. And then I stopped myself, and I was like, wait, no, this can't be the preschool for us, because if that happened, then, this must not be the place for us. So we went on the tour, and he really liked it, but, it wasn't going to be the place for us. And I thought maybe they would, have an opening next month or something. I was staying open about it. But before we actually went there, my son was reluctant to leave the house because he like had just gotten out of bed. And so I had this inspiration to be like, let's go to this coffee place that his auntie would take him to sometimes. And they have this like little toy coffee making set. And I'd never been to it before. And as I'm driving on my way, I get this thought like, I'm going to solve this like by going there. There's something at this coffee place that, you know, maybe somebody's going to tell me about how great their preschool is and has an opening or something. I just felt like that was going to happen. So I park the car and I look over towards where the coffee place is, and right next door there's a martial arts studio and it says Brighton View Montessori. It's a
Sorry.
Montessori preschool. And so we walk in and they do have a spot. We set up a tour. We got the spot. I mean, it was like, it was,
So he's going there. Your
it was
youngest is going to that
sick.
preschool. Montessori.
Mhm.
It's the one he wanted to go to, which he just
Yeah.
it's obvious. And I think this is very interesting because I'm curious. So you come from a background of following a lot of your inspiration. I think the artist way, the musician's way. You begin to notice how inspiration works perhaps better than other people who have normal jobs. And and you have the Inspired Artist podcast, which I'll list as well. I think a great podcast. And I think that maybe, I mean, you have a step up for than a lot of people because of this background that you have as being, being able to have a career as a musician and artist. And now you're at the next level where I think the one thing that maybe, I'm just because I'm speaking for myself as well, is that I would see things as negative, but in reality they were positive because they were just showing us where we're supposed to go. So getting a rejection wasn't really a rejection. It was just that that's not the school he wanted to go to necessarily, or that he was meant to go to, and the way to, and maybe you would have processed it differently. And the question is, I don't know, is from the teaching of Joshua, did that affect the way you dealt with that situation or how you followed inspiration in that case?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Because in the past I would have been like, you know, I would have had this negative emotion sitting on me throughout the whole tour, being like, why did this lady not call me right after, you know, she did that? Why did she have me come on the tour? You know, like all these negative thoughts that have been going. But instead it was just like, we'll find another place, you know, or it'll be this place next month. You know, but it was interesting because when we showed up at the Brighton View Montessori, so Montessori is very structured. And it's
I didn't know it
very
was structured. I thought it was like a little bit like Waldorf, more
Waldorf.
about
No.
no.
Waldorf is very, I look at Waldorf as like the, like very, hippie sort of,
That's
you
where my
know,
kids went. My kids went to the preschool
yeah,
there, Waldorf.
like
Yeah.
play in the woods, make fairies, you know, that sort of thing. Like
Play with stones and
play with stones and sticks and
it sticks. That's the big difference. Like I mean, it's beautiful, but like my
yeah.
kid was my young son would be like, he's playing with sticks and rocks, and he's like, Daddy, I want my cars. I'm like, sorry, this is the rules here. It's about your creativity. Imagine that rock's a car. It's a Mercedes, you know. And he was like, no. But anyway, so
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I feel like all of those things can have the potential to just become doctrine, you know. It's like, no, we want you to have imagination. You cannot, you know, but as opposed to like, this is what you get to play with, you know, like this is what's available. But yeah, and I know in Germany, well, I mean that's where Waldorf is from, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And another thing, he hasn't danced his name for me. Like, the Waldorf, you're supposed to have some sort of dance in her name. I mean, keep on, and they never do it. It's like the one thing that it's like kind of famous for is like still mysteriously, they don't show it. It's like, so there's so much like a little bit of secrecy there too. Like with whenever the kids would do their dancing things, they would have somebody, you're with me. I think I don't know if it's the English words.
Yeah, you're in, yeah.
But have somebody come
Yeah,
in
no,
and
Montessori is different because they have, and I don't know if this one is just particularly more hardcore, but I remember from my friend sending her son to Montessori that it's very serious. I mean, you like, not in like a, you know, a terrible way, but it's like, you know, your kid has, each child has the work that they're doing, and when they're done with the work, then they ask for more work, and they, you know, they go through the
ask for more work. I would
cycle.
never ask for more work.
The work in quotes is like a puzzle.
Okay.
Like a, you know, like
It's
a
like,
drawing. Like that.
you're saying vegging out doesn't work at Montessori. like
Right.
sitting
So
on the
you're
sofa.
very focused. And I think
Okay.
that this is going to be really perfect for my little guy because he likes to be busy. You know, he does
Okay.
not like to just he's his brother, so this I found really interesting, right? Because they were both homeschooled, they were both given total liberty to do whatever the heck they wanted. My youngest one hardly ever watched anything. Like he wanted to be doing Duplos, he wanted to be doing Play-Doh, he wanted to be cutting up fruit in the kitchen, you know, all this stuff. My older one would totally happy to just sit on the couch and watch YouTube for hours.
Mm.
And you know, before the divorce, he would take a lot more breaks, but that was still like his happy spot, was just sitting and watching, you know.
Yeah.
So
Building up that hand-eye coordination.
right,
Yeah. It's
right,
like
yeah, yeah,
the
and yeah,
yeah. I have
yeah,
to you know like this is interesting combining playing video games with spirituality. Everything
hmm,
is a teaching. So
yeah,
I am who I am because I did play a lot of games and I understand how reality for me works. This is a very matrix-like environment, okay? And I see through the games I play, I love strategy games, right? So, you know, in charge of lots of people. And I don't like you did have like God like things. And I didn't it's not like I want to be God, but it was kind of a thrill, you know, to have, total
yeah, the creator
control.
of
Yeah,
reality,
the creative reality. I felt some freedom in that, and I got out that that middle school, high school kind of where I was nothing. You know, I felt very little value in myself. So of course, the only light I could go to was with my imagination was kind of
right,
was playing with these games, and now I don't necessarily need that anymore. It's but I can see where the kids of this generation have
hmm,
obviously have more access with these phones and
yeah.
games are free. When I had to buy a game, it costed like $50, $60 for a kid. You know how many hours McDonald's have to work? It's like you just think of how many burgers I have to flip to do to get. So I had when she got a game, it was
Yeah,
you had one game, but now these kids are just like downloading 20 games at one time and they're going through each one.
it's
And
still that expensive though, I mean.
no, but not the free games, not the like on
Oh,
your
oh,
iPad.
oh,
You're
I
talking about
see.
the console. Yeah, okay, I did the console as well, but now my youngest are using like
Like
on
apps.
apps. Yeah, even Minecraft, there's like a free version of that, I think, and stuff, and it's actually cheaper because it's not. Maybe it costs like €10 or $10 instead of
Have
50,
have they
60.
gotten into the TV show?
Which one do you
There's
mean?
a Netflix Minecraft show. It's
Okay.
so innovative. It's a
Okay.
choose your own adventure. So
Oh
you're
wow.
actually choosing where the story goes. There's like all these alternate plots.
Oh geez. Wow. This
Yeah,
is like
so it's
a.
an interactive show. It's really cool.
It's in the Minecraft world with voices of
Yeah.
people who are playing the characters in the Minecraft world. Yeah. Yeah, it is because when I hear them watching these Minecraft players, these are people who often are our age, okay, and they're talking in high pitched voices, and but they're getting millions of views.
Hmm.
And when you look at it, you're just thinking this is, I mean, from a judgmental perspective, you think it's very stupid. It's like this is, they're doing something like I don't know, like talking to a little dog that's Minecraft dog, and the whole 5 minutes goes by with talking about this dog and how cute it is, and I'm like, oh wow.
But I find it that it's so interesting because when we talk about like, abundance coming in, all these different forms, I mean, who would have known 20 years ago, 10 years ago that you could make a multi-million dollar income from playing video games? And there's a guy, he's the most,
PewDiePie.
yeah, I don't,
PewDiePie. Yes.
yeah.
Great name.
It's so your parents are like, you can't play video games all day. You won't ever, make anything of yourself. Well,
These guys are the biggest
not
YouTubers now. They're making millions. Ninja. There's quite a few famous names, and uh, it is definitely there for a reason. There's if you follow your passion,
hmm,
doesn't matter what your passion is. It could
totally,
be, you know, floral arrangements or playing video games.
totally.
It can give back, open up worlds of abundance, and
Hmm.
I'm guessing that we're kind of running low on time, or we're getting close.
Yeah,
So
I have to go lead the Joshua
yeah, yeah, this is
call.
exciting. But it's been a wonderful talk. Went in directions I didn't expect. I'm guessing you didn't expect either.
No.
I wanted to talk more about your music. Of course, I wanted to get. I thought we'd be going in more details that, but we did touch on it, and I'm sure the viewers will get something out of this, or the listeners, I hope.